CNN made this video, though. They talked about CNN made a video talking about the wildfire in LA. They talked to some witnesses. Allegedly, there was a video that showed the start of the fire. I'm slightly dubious, in my opinion, but then I also don't know a whole lot. I'm definitely going to trust CNN to inform me. But here's the video that they made. It's a little segment from the stream from one of their broadcasts, I think.
Guys, we gotta go up. Let's go up. Let's go up. Oh no.
These videos obtained by CNN appear to show the beginning of 2 wildfires in Los Angeles. In the first video, taken on the morning of January 7th and later shared with the Associated Press, Kai Cranmore was hiking with friends in Temescal Canyon when they spotted smoke on the horizon.
Turned around and there was like a plume of smoke just like rolling over the mountain like right behind us.
This satellite image, captured by the European Space Agency and timestamped at 10:37 a.m. local time, shows the first signs of the Palisades fire tearing through the area. CNN geolocated Cranmore's video to an area near the site of that smoke.
Wow.
I need you to come out here right now.
Later that day, Ring doorbell footage shows Cheryl Koo alerting her husband Jeffrey to a nearby fire she saw on her drive home from work.
And because there was no power, the neighborhood was dark, the canyon was dark. She could see a light in the hillside, and as she got closer to the house, sure enough, it was burning bright, and it was the base of the tower on fire.
Minutes later, cell phone video taken by Jeffrey appears to show the base of an electrical tower in Eaton Canyon on fire. These are potential.
Wait, so that is actually an electrical installation, but the cause, I'm not sure if that's an electrical fire. From what I know of electrical fires, they spark up and they are huge, and that's a big fire. To be fair, I don't want to downplay the size of that fire, but from what I've seen, like for electrical transformers just like going up, it's like the whole thing is ablaze. So if this was an electrical fire, and again, I'm not an expert, but if this was electrical fire, what I would assume would happen is the entire tower would be on fire. So you'd see this big vertical fire. The lines themselves would be on fire too if they're not already burnt. The electrical fires spread extremely quickly. Maybe someone just threw a cigarette out when they were clocking out from work after working at the electrical tower.
Actually, the first images of the Eaton fire.
We were in the panic mode of just trying to get out as fast as we can. We did see the embers flying. It was almost like snow flurries, but instead it's fire.
At the same time the Coos were evacuating, Pedro Rojas captured another angle of flames erupting at the base of the transmission tower from his backyard in Pasadena. Local officials are investigating the area as the possible origin site of the fire, according to the Los Angeles Times.
Investigators are trying to get to the bottom of the question that's on everyone's mind. How did all of this happen? What started the 2 most destructive fires in Southern California history?
Well, yeah, that's right, because it's not just one fire, it's multiple fires. Yeah, that's another point. And interesting that they happened around the same time.
Now, we know the dry brush and the high winds helped fuel the flames. You can see here just how fast the Palisades fire grew. What started more than a week ago has spread and spread and spread. It's now burned more than 23,000 acres. That's more than 37 square miles, killing at least 9 people for that fire alone, scorching 5,000 structures. It's currently, this fire in particular, 18% contained. But what was the source of that initial spark? Well, the first signs of the inferno were actually early on Tuesday, January 7th. CAL FIRE says that it started around 10:30 in the morning. Now, this video shows smoke rolling off the hills around the Palisades minutes after 10:30. Now, this satellite image was taken at 10:37. Now, at that point, the fire was a tiny fraction of what it would eventually go on to become. And now we're learning the Palisades fire appears to have started very close to another blaze that broke out just 6 days earlier on New Year's Day.
You know what I find really interesting? And actually, you know what? I'm going to pull up the proof of this because I don't want to be just shooting from the hip or say something and you guys are like, oh, no, not a newbie. You're making stuff up. Let me see. California. Let's see here. fire. So if there's a Wikipedia article about this, I'm going to pull this up right here. And where can I find the fire warning? Because I saw news that there's going to be a fire warning. Here, let me pull this up. When did it start? It started on January 7th. Oh, why is this not working? Maybe it's because I'm using California. So weird. I'm trying to use the search by time feature, but it's not working. At least in fire risk. There's like fire risk or fire warning. Let me look it up in my Firefox based browser, see if that works. Okay, one. Here, let me do, just to be a little bit more specific. And I promise that there's a reason why I'm going through all of this, by the way. Okay. I found this incredibly bizarre. So okay, I found this incredibly bizarre. I have never seen something like this happen. And again, I'm not saying that this was I'm not going to be all conspiratorial or whatever, but I just found this super interesting because I saw headlines that before the wildfire started, and there were these headlines right here. Okay, I finally found them. Okay, so this one says, let me just minimize this on the side. Okay, this one says life-threatening windstorm to increase fire danger in Southern California, NWS. Parts of Southern California that were impacted by severe wildfires last month will be again threatened with critical fire danger in the coming days. The National Weather Service has issued a high wind warning and red flag warning from Los Angeles down to the Mexican border from Tuesday through Wednesday morning. During that time, strong Santa Ana winds could gust 40 miles per hour to 60 miles per hour, even reaching up to 80 miles per hour locally in some spots, forecasts show. On Monday evening, California Governor Gavin Newsom directed state departments to position fire engines, hand crews, aircraft, and additional support in areas that could be impacted. The state is taking early proactive steps to coordinate with local partners and protect communities as dangerous weather enters our states. So it was basically just a windstorm, right? And so it says here, ahead of extreme fire weather conditions forecasted in several Southern California counties beginning Tuesday, Governor Gavin Newsom has directed state departments to coordinate and strategically position fire engines, hand crews, aircraft, and additional support in key areas. The headline here is California mobilizes resources to Southern California during windstorm and fire weather conditions. So and this is on the 6th, by the way. It says that the actual Eden fire began on the 7th. Now, there was the Palisades fire. I think, was that on the 6th as well? Here, let me see. Palisades. The Palisades fire started on the 7th too. So I saw this and I was like, huh. I didn't know they had forecasts for wildfires. This is interesting. And then I went on about my day. Actually, it was the next day because this warning came late at night. We can actually see the timestamp here. This is 11:30. It was like very early. It was like basically as soon as I clocked in for work, I checked my RSS feeds. I saw these articles about a fire warning in California. I'm like, very interesting. And then a few hours later, I hear that there's a wildfire. I was like, how do they know it's going to happen? I mean, I guess you can easily predict, right? If there are going to be all these massive winds, then of course you have the threat of there being a wildfire. But just the stunning accuracy where it's like people are like, oh, hey, there's a fire warning. And then a few hours later, oh, hey, there's a fire. That just floored me, honestly.
This is the burn scar from that fire from a satellite image on January 1st. Here's that same burn scar on the image on the Palisades fire. It's less than 300 yards from where it looks like.
The angry Canadian in the chat is saying hashtag Newsom did it. No, I don't think Gavin Newsom caused a fire in his own state. Many people are saying that this is going to be the biggest scandal of Gavin Newsom's political career. I disagree, but no, Gavin Newsom would never do this just because he does not have that level of political capital to waste on these fires. The angry Canadian says it's because the fires were staged. What do you mean the fires were staged? Are you saying they didn't happen? Or are you saying that they were caused intentionally by a foreign actor? It's possible it was caused by a foreign actor. I'm not seeing any proof of that. I will say that if I was a foreign actor trying to take down infrastructure, I would say along a wide swath of a particular American state, I would say this is how I would do it if I was going to use arson. I think there are probably more efficient ways to do that, but if you could probably start a fire like this without getting detected, I would imagine. Still, there's no proof, by the way, just to be clear, that this was caused by a state actor, by Russia or someone. The angry Canadian said deep state paid him and the insurance companies to burn it. I highly doubt this. The deep state paid him? I don't know what amount of money it would take to say, hey, Gavin Newsom, burn all the political capital you have when you're trying to run for president in 4 years. I just don't think that's entirely likely. It's, of course, you could always say, oh, they blackmailed him, but like honestly, you could say that about anyone. And also, I just think there's no proof of any of this. So do you think deep state's gonna admit to their malice? No, the deep state's not gonna admit to their malice, but I just don't think this is the type of thing that the American deep state would do. There's no benefit to the deep state in setting California on fire. I don't think. It says they got loaded resources to hide proof. Well, to be fair, with something like this, if you did this on purpose, you don't really even have a lot of proof to leave. Especially if you planned it all through analog. You would just like, I don't know, get a match, set something on fire, and walk away. You know, maybe you just don't bring your cell phone with you or something. But other than that, like, I don't know what proof there would be to even hide. This is a very cheap way to cause a lot of damage. As deep state did the dirty work. I don't believe you. You can say what you want in my chat, but like, these are conspiracy theories. And to be fair, there's nothing wrong with having conspiracy theories. But if you're going to be a conspiracy theorist, it's important to be like, hey, I don't know whether or not this is true. This might be true, and I speculate sometimes, and I give that caveat. That doesn't mean, like, there's a difference between finding conspiracy theories interesting and being a conspiracy theorist. Because if you're a conspiracy theorist, that means you're diving headlong, believing things that haven't been proven true yet, and that's not a place that you necessarily want to be. That's where you get a little bit more dangerous, and dangerous territory there. Bingham Canadian says, but what if Deep State was paid by BlackRock because BlackRock wanted those properties? I think when we say Deep State, we're talking about political entities taking action with political ends. That's a little bit different than a private entity taking action for private ends. I don't think that BlackRock would set things on fire. I think that there's a little bit too much legal that puts them in too much legal jeopardy, and I don't think they would want to put themselves in that precarious situation. Because even if companies are not sticklers for obeying the law, there are certain lines that I think a lot of companies just don't want to cross, because then you've got a crisis that you've got to manage. You got a situation where it's like, oh, if we broke the law, we got to put in all this effort into covering it up. It's just a lot of hassle that's just not worth it for a lot of companies, in my opinion. And I think this is the type of thing that if BlackRock did it, and it was found out that BlackRock did it, then they would definitely pay a hefty price for setting this on fire. So I am dubious to the concept that BlackRock did this. He said BlackRock tried to assassinate Trump. Dude, I don't. There's no proof of that at all. Everything pointing to that is completely circumstantial, dude. Maybe send proof if you have proof into the Discord channel, but or Discord server. But I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Like the Palisades blaze began. Now, people are asking, could the winds have rekindled smoldering debris from that New Year's Day fire? Well, agents from the ATF are trying to figure it all out. But a source tells us there is no leading theory at the moment. And then there's the Eaton fire. Now, CAL FIRE says it started at 6:18 p.m. on Tuesday. Here's video from an Altadena resident just a minute later.
Oh no!
Now, what he's filming there is an electrical tower with flames licking away at the base of it, as you see, and that's not the only vantage point. Another nearby resident, they recorded this. It was taken around 6:24. Now, no cause of the fire has been determined yet, but the Los Angeles Times is reporting that authorities are investigating an electrical tower as the possible origin site. The city's electric company.
Hey guys, you think that might be the origin site right there where you see that fire? You think the fire might have started where the fire is? I mean, I think pretty much everyone at this point is like, yeah, the fire started over there, at least this one. But it's not particularly helpful, because we could find out where the origin location is, but it's like, who started it? Was it an accident? Was it on purpose? How was the fire started? Was there a way that the fire could have been prevented from spreading right after it started? Like, could they have installed sprinklers under the electrical tower or something? Like there are a million questions that you could ask, but I think that acting like it's a big W to say, oh, look, it looks like the fire that started around the area of the electrical tower actually started at the electrical tower. Huh? Who knew? It's like basic information that you could tell just by, in the earlier video where it's like, hey, the first videos of this showed this happening at this area. Satellite footage confirmed that the fire started in the exact same place. So, we don't need the Los Angeles Times to tell us that the fire started at the base of the electrical tower.
An electrical tower as the possible origin site. The city's electric company is already facing a lawsuit, by the way. Southern California Edison says it found no electric company. An electrical tower as the possible origin site. The city's electric company is already facing a lawsuit, by the way. Southern California.
What is that lawsuit? I'm going to look this up right now. What is this? No, I don't want to use the Brave browser. I'm still setting the search engines up and everything. Oh, this is interesting. This is very interesting. Let me do a time-based search to see if I could find anything from before the fire, because I think that also would be important to know. Here, let me see. I don't know how long the lawsuit is, so let's go back to 2023. Here, let me sort by date. I'm not seeing anything about that lawsuit. honestly. But I did find these things right here. So there were these other two lawsuits, articles about the lawsuit. So this is after the fire started, of course, completely different. But this is from NPR. Lawsuits allege power company involvement in LA wildfires. At least 2 lawsuits have been filed against Southern California Edison Power Company on the speculation that faulty power lines may have sparked the Eden fire, which has claimed at least 16 lives and destroyed over 1,000 structures. ATF has not determined the cause of the fire. The agency said it has just begun the investigations of the Eden and Palisades fire and are still burning, but it has to stop speculation. Any indication of what that originally, what that other case was? It says here, Southern California Edison has paid hundreds of millions of dollars in settlements related to at least 7 other wildfires in recent years, including $80 million settlements to the U.S. Forest Service for the 2017 Thomas Fire and the County of Los Angeles for the 2020 Bobcat Fire. But here, let's see if we do this. Southern California Edison. If I look this up on Wikipedia, there's got to be they had to mention a lawsuit there if a lawsuit actually did take place. I'm not seeing anything about that lawsuit. So maybe she's referring to lawsuits that were filed after the fire started.
Edison says it found no problems around the time of the fire.
Yeah, actually, probably, because those articles said that they got the lawsuit started around the 13th, and his video was done on the 15th. So
Southern California Edison says it found no problems around the time of the fire. I want to bring in CNN's Nick Watt, who's live in Pacific Palisades. Nick, there have been concerns all day about the return of those now infamous Santa Ana winds. So far, though, the gusts have not been as strong as expected. How long is that going to last?
Well, hopefully a long time, but at about 3 a.m. our time, West Coast, so 6 a.m. your time, they are forecast to pick up again. You know, we went through this drill last night where we thought that the winds were really going to pick up in the middle of the night. You know, there was a weather forecaster on the local news who was talking about these people being at the most danger as he had his hand alarmingly over exactly where I live. So my truck is full of a couple of pictures and some stuff from my house right now. If we get through tonight, we will be good. So fingers crossed the forecast is wrong again. I mean, it's been great news. And frankly, the Palisades fire today has been very inactive. No real active flame. A few hot spots around the fringes that they've been really trying to damp down just in case that wind does pick up. And, you know, another theme of the day has been, you know, Mayor Bass talking about, you know, it's time to look forward. It's time to start rebuilding. You know, she and the governor are signing executive directives, executive orders to try and make the permitting process a lot faster, to cut a lot of the red tape, which is notorious here in LA, trying to cut a lot of that red tape so that the rebuilding can happen. I mean, I drove along Sunset Boulevard through the Palisades earlier, and, you know, all the utility trucks are now there, you know, chopping up the trees that have fallen over, dealing with the gas lines, dealing with the power lines, but it is going to be a monumental task. But for now, as I say, the real focus is, fingers crossed, hoping that those winds don't really pick up again tonight, because, you know, a lot has burned here, but there's still a lot of vegetation. You know, last winter I was covering floods in Los Angeles. That just, there was a bloom of growth that then dried out. A lot of that stuff's still around, so fingers crossed.
Yep, and they didn't get rid of it. But one thing that's interesting is that he mentioned the red tape. It is true that they're starting to remove a lot of red tape when it comes to regulations in building new structures in California. Now, I find it interesting because red tape, when it comes to urban development, is one of the major contributors to the culture that we see now of, it's not even a culture, but a phenomenon that we see now of all these just apartments being built all over the place, but no houses. and all of the apartments basically looking the same, more or less. So I wonder if this means, and it feels a little bit morbid to say this, especially considering that the fire is still raging to an extent, but part of me wonders if this will lead to more creative urban development and urban planning in kind of determining what these areas look like moving forward. Like, it's very possible that what we see here might be the future of American suburbs, especially affluent suburbs, because they're not going to be as restricted. So they might be able to, the building and land developers might be able to do things here that they wouldn't be able to do ordinarily.
Certainly, and thinking about that, I won't forget, this is also not just a story you're covering, this is your home, and thinking about how impactful and personal it is to you as well, Nick. And you actually spent some of the day around the trails where the Palisades fire started.
Yeah.
We're hearing a lot about the investigation. Obviously, it's in its infancy, but what are you learning about the investigation into how this started?
Well, yeah, we are up in what is called the sort of general area of origin. It's just on this hill behind me. You see the police are here. They have not been letting anybody in all day. You know, normally media are allowed anywhere in wildfires, not here because this is a potential crime scene. So you mentioned that previous fire, January 1st, early hours of New Year's Day. That was just over there. So listen, that's obviously something they're looking into. Were there embers, something still burning under the ground that was then just reinvigorated by that wind? Arson is also obviously on the table. You know, they had dogs out here in the past few days sniffing for accelerants, and there are also, you can't see them because it's dark, but there are 2 utility poles up there right now.
Oh, that's interesting. So I would imagine if dogs were sniffing for accelerants, I haven't heard and seen any articles about accelerants that no accelerants were found. Very interesting.
Listen, what they generally try and do is, you know, kind of rule stuff out and hone.
Because by the way, an accelerant that would something that would make the fire grow quicker. That's the type of thing you would expect to see if this was indeed intentional.
On what might the cause actually be. The other thing that they're doing right now is they're trying to get from this sort of general area of origin down to a specific area. One investigator I spoke to today said they try and get it down to basically the size of a dinner plate. And the way that they do that is you have investigators actually on their hands and knees looking at every single piece of vegetation, every pebble, every blade of grass, figuring out which side the fire reach that particular item, and then they can map that, flag that, and try and just hone in on that area. Because obviously, if you can figure out exactly where it started, that's going to be a huge help to figure out why it started.
True. It says, FYI, even a broken glass bottle or bottle of water can cause a fire if the sun shines on it. Many factors to consider. Is that true? I mean, it had to be some crazy heat and sunlight and some insanely dry conditions, which, to be fair, California has, in order for something like that to happen, I would imagine. Interesting. This person in the comments says I would not rule out a fire starter, but they literally said there were no accelerants. So the person says they do have satellite imagery, but it's imagery. It's not video footage. It's very, very different. It's like basically a time lapse. If you did a live video feed of the entire world, you wouldn't be able to store that anywhere. It'd be too much. So yes, they do have satellite imagery, but that doesn't mean they have like satellite video of everything happening for the entire day or whatever. That would just be a little preposterous. So I definitely wish the authorities luck in finding out who started the wildfires. I think that for closure for both the general public as well as the people affected by the fire, and also to sort of not leave this as an open-ended case that leads to more conspiracy theories. I think that's all going to help everyone in America when it comes to this situation. So yeah, wishing them the best in all of that.